The funeral was still fresh in my mind. My father had passed away only a week ago, and the air around our home still carried the weight of mourning. His voice, his laughter, his presence. It was all gone, leaving only silence and the sound of my mother's quiet sobs echoing through the halls. I was his son Daniel, 29 years old, and my sister Emily was 31. To us, he had been more than a father. He was a figure of strength, honesty, and deep loyalty. He built everything we had with his own hands. His business, his home, his reputation, all of it was rooted in hard work and unshakable principles. And now he was gone. On a gray Wednesday afternoon, we gathered in his lawyer's office to hear his will. My mother sat beside me, her hands trembling slightly, while Emily squeezed her arm as if offering silent comfort. I tried to prepare myself for the usual distribution of property, bank accounts, maybe a sentimental message about family. But what came next hit us like a storm. The lawyer, a gray-haired man who had known my father for decades, cleared his throat. Mr. Harris's estate will be divided equally among his children. However, he paused deliberately, his eyes shifting toward us, especially toward my mother. Before any division can take place, there is one condition. Both Daniel and Emily must undergo DNA testing to confirm their biological relationship to Mr. Harris. The room froze. Emily gasped audibly. "What? That's absurd! Why would Dad?" I sat there, stunned, staring at the lawyer, then at my mother. Her face drained of color instantly. She didn't speak a word. Her lips trembled as if she were holding back something. The lawyer went on, reading the exact line from the will. "No inheritance shall be transferred unless my children prove, through DNA testing, that they are indeed mine. This is not to cast doubt, but to ensure clarity and fairness. For I lived with certain suspicions I could never confirm during my lifetime." It was like the ground beneath me cracked open. Why would Dad ever doubt us? What suspicion could he have carried all his life? And why had he never spoken of it? Emily shook her head violently. "This is humiliating. He was our father. He raised us, loved us, sacrificed for us. How dare he question that in his will?" But deep inside me, a tiny voice whispered, "What if he knew something?" I looked at my mother again. She sat still, her eyes fixed on the ground, her hands gripping the edge of her dress so tightly that her knuckles turned white. It took a week for the DNA results to arrive. A week filled with silence, tension, and unspoken fears. Emily was furious about the entire process. She called it an insult to Dad's memory. Though I noticed she seemed more afraid than angry. I tried to stay calm, reminding myself that Dad had his reasons, even if we didn't understand them yet. The day the results came, we met again at the lawyer's office. My stomach churned as the envelope was handed over. My mother looked pale, as though she hadn't slept in days. The lawyer opened the document and read aloud. "DNA analysis confirms that Daniel Harris is the biological son of the late Mr. Harris." A relief washed over me briefly. At least I had no doubts now. But then came the next line. "DNA analysis confirms that Emily Harris is not the biological daughter of the late Mr. Harris." The words struck like thunder. Emily froze in her seat, her mouth opening but no sound coming out.
"What? That's impossible,"
she finally cried, her voice breaking. The lawyer looked uncomfortable, but the facts were undeniable. Emily wasn't Dad's daughter. My mother burst into tears. Her sobs filled the room, but they weren't just of grief, they were of guilt. She couldn't even look at me. Emily stood up, her eyes blazing with anger and pain. "Mom, say something! Tell them this is wrong! Tell them it's a mistake!" But my mother just wept harder, hiding her face in her hands. That silence was the answer. My chest tightened, my hands curled into fists. My father, the man who had loved and cared for Emily as his own, had lived his whole life with this suspicion. And in death, he had forced the truth out into the light. Emily collapsed back into her chair, sobbing, whispering, "All my life. I thought I was his little girl." I couldn't even comfort her. My anger burned too hot, not at Emily, but at the woman who had caused all of this, our mother. That night, I confronted her. We sat in the dimly lit living room. Emily had locked herself in her room, devastated beyond words. My mother sat across from me, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "Tell me the truth," I demanded. My voice was low, but it shook with restrained rage. "Who is Emily's father?" She flinched at the question. For a long time, she said nothing. But when she finally spoke, the confession poured out like poison. 31 years ago, she whispered. "I made a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. Before your father and I married, there was a man. Someone I thought I loved. We met again briefly after my marriage. It was foolish, shameful, unforgivable. And then I found out I was pregnant." So she clutched her chest as if her own words were suffocating her. I panicked. "I didn't tell your father. He was so happy to believe Emily was his. He loved her more than anything. I thought the secret would die with me." Her tears flowed, but they didn't move me. "All these years," I hissed, "you lied to him. You let him raise another man's child while he lived in doubt, while he suspected but never confronted you. Do you know what you did to him? To us." She shook her head miserably. I know, I destroyed everything. But I loved him, Daniel. I loved him more than anyone else. I was weak, just once, and it cost me everything." Her words were hollow to me. Love without loyalty is betrayal, and betrayal is unforgivable. Emily had been innocent in all this. She was a victim too. But my father, he was the biggest victim of all. He had lived and died carrying a wound no one could see, and my mother had given it to him. That night, I made a vow in my heart. I would not let my mother walk away from this unscathed. She would face the consequences of the truth she had hidden for 31 years. When the inheritance was finalized, everything went exactly as the will demanded. Since Emily wasn't Dad's biological child, she was cut out completely. Every asset, every property, every business share came to me. Emily cried when she realized it. But I couldn't let her suffer for something she didn't do. Quietly, I promised her. "You may not have his blood, but you'll always be my sister. And you'll always have a place in this family, no matter what the papers say." She hugged me through her tears, broken but grateful. She had lost a father, but she still had me. My mother, however, was a different story. She begged me to share the inheritance, to forgive her, to keep the family united. But I refused. Not because I wanted wealth, but because I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal every single day. I made sure the truth spread through the family. Relatives whispered about her, neighbors judged her, and the once respected woman became the subject of shame. She couldn't escape it. Every time she walked into a room, eyes followed her. Every time she tried to speak, she saw doubt and disgust staring back. That was her punishment. Not exile, not screams, not anger. Just the cold, merciless truth made public. I treated Emily with kindness, making sure she never felt unwanted. But with my mother, I remained cold and distant. I gave her a roof, food and care, but no warmth, no forgiveness. One evening, I stood by my father's grave, the cool breeze brushing against my face. I placed fresh flowers on the stone and whispered, "Dad, the truth is finally out. You were right to doubt. You were right to put that condition in your will. I'll take care of Emily, because she's innocent. But as for Mom, she will live with the shadow of what she did. That's the only justice I can give you." And with that, I walked away. Epilogue: It has been months since the truth came out. Life feels heavier but clearer. Emily and I are rebuilding. Together. My mother lives in the same house, but she is a ghost of herself. Her betrayal cut us deeply. But in silence, in coldness, in the endless whispers of the world, she faces her punishment every day. And that, I believe, is the sweetest revenge.